While my keyboard arrived on the 19th of July, I didn't really get to do anything with it until August 1st. For one, I was in hospital between the 18th and the 27th, a different story for a different day. But when I got back, my priorities weren't exactly to go straight back into making content. You know, I'm sure you understand. On August 1st, I did get to play around with it, and the first point on my agenda was to actually build the thing. Take the PCB, including the switches, out of the plastic casing that it came in, place it in the case that I bought, more on that one later, and also move over the foam to the new case because, well, why not, right? If you remember my short I uploaded a while ago showcasing the blank black PBT keycaps I bought, this was a puzzle and a half to figure out where everything goes and in which direction. The only keys I knew to place from the get-go were F, J, space and enter. The rest turned out to be quite the struggle, as especially the letter keys, which I assumed were all the same, are not. So just putting this thing together, which I thought would take me a few minutes at most, took almost an hour. It was reminiscent of doing an actual puzzle, so I was mildly entertained, mostly by my own stupidity. Entertained nonetheless. I did get there in the end, but that was just the physical part of building it. Now it came to actually do the things for which I wanted this keyboard in the first place. The first order of things was to auto-remove any caps lock functionality. I'm aware that various keyboards allow users to alter the function of the caps lock key. I've never been keen on the idea of changing a key or button's behavior solely within the operating system. For a console, it's fine, using the accessibility features of remapping buttons on the PS4 and PS5, for example. I have no issues with that. On a keyboard, though, it can get quite annoying from my perspective at least. What if I change my setup? The systems. I have to reinstall the operating system. Some random update changes how your operating system recognizes your hardware. If I want to switch between macOS and Windows, as I constantly do due to the KVM setup I'm using, and a whole laundry list of other things that could get annoying over a longer period of time. The way layers and profiles work through the utility software is perfect for what I was looking for. Granted, it's nothing groundbreaking, but out of the box, it did all the things that I wanted, so I didn't have to jump through any extra hoops to get everything working the way I wanted it to work. This is still week 1 for me, so chances are I'll find some issues later down the line, but so far, things have been working out for me just fine. The main layer is pretty standard. The only noteworthy keys are the caps lock key, which is now an FN1, and the 3 keys on the bottom right are also FN keys. Another FN1 key, an FN2 key, and an FN3 key. The FN3 is a toggle just like caps, or more accurately in this case, a numlock key would be. For the FN1 layer, starting with the top row, we have an A1 key which switches to the profile to the analog 1 profile, which in my case is the Windows layout. All that means is that the command and options are swapped around on both sides, so that the Windows and Alt keys are on the correct spots whenever I'm using Windows. Following that, we have the standard media keys, from brightness to expose, launchpad, keyboard brightness, media playback buttons, volume buttons, and lastly, a delete key. Next to the enter key are page up and down keys, and I, J, K, L serve as my arrow keys. The second FN layer doesn't have much of a function just yet, so for the time being I just assigned the keys from F1 to F24, which are most likely going to be used for macros and OBS shortcuts, I guess. As I edit this video, I might find ways to optimize my Final Cut shortcuts using the FN2 layer. Also, I haven't checked out other setups, as I prefer experimenting on my own first. After making a few videos, I'll definitely see how other creators are doing things though. The third function layer is simply a numpad. You see, I really like numpads, but as I mentioned way back when I was talking about the differences between the Keychron K6 and the Apple Touch ID, I don't like that I kept bumping my mouse into it. And yes, that was partially because of the mouse itself, but it's no doubt also the real estate a full-sized keyboard takes up on your desk. The reason why I like the functionality of a numpad is because I have always had trouble hitting the 5, 6, and 7 keys correctly without contorting my fingers and wrists. Even doing that, my accuracy has always been awful with those 3 keys. A numpad negates that issue entirely. Sure, whenever I need to use the percentage or ampersand symbols, it's still going to be a little bit of a struggle, but those scenarios are far and few between. Numbers, on the other hand, that's very common. And yes, 7 is still in the exact same position it's always been at. But as I'm now orienting myself on J, K, and L being 1, 2, and 3, I'm now moving my hand for this layout differently than I would be during normal typing sessions anyway. In addition to the Mac and Windows profiles, which differ mainly in the placement of the Alt, Option, and Command Windows keys, I've set up Street Fighter 6 profile as well. This was slightly trickier due to the game's odd restriction on binding non-lettered keys like semicolon, period, and comma, for example. It's an unusual and somewhat senseless limitation. While I don't plan to extensively play Street Fighter 6 using a keyboard, I enjoy experimenting with Street Fighter 6's modern controls. To that end, I believe this keyboard offers me more flexibility than my hitbox does. As you can imagine, typing any sort of text into the game like this would be a struggle, so I've set up a typing player as well. The typing feel is by and large dependent on both keycaps as well as the switches, of course. The switches, which are Wooting's very own lacquer switches, work perfectly fine for me. I have the standard ones, not the new ones that they've recently put up on their storefront, and yeah, no complaints. The actuation point, which is customizable via the software as well as the overall travel and resistance, it feels all really good to me. In fact, my overall typing speed has not only gone up by roughly 20 words per minute on average, it's also a lot more accurate for some reason. The keycaps as well as the case are of course not by Wooting and thus have little to do with the keyboard itself. However, I like them. Considering that the keycaps were only 45 euros, and I say that with a little bit of contempt as we are still talking about little pieces of plastic, they are exactly what I was looking for. Would double shot ones have been better? Maybe, but I couldn't find actually black blank double shot PBT ISO keycaps. The ISO part is what made it difficult. Did I maybe not look hard enough? Possibly, but again, I'm perfectly happy with the quality and finger feel of these keycaps. In terms of sound, I think there is more to it than just the keycaps, and while I do like what this currently sounds like, this isn't the final product yet, so the sound is still subject to change. I've actually bought 3 cases. The first one I bought was a mistake, as I didn't really pay attention to the compatibility. I wanted a Tofu 60 case, however, I didn't realize that it was out of stock, and what I was actually buying was in fact a Tofu 60 2.0 case, which is essentially only compatible with a Tofu 60 2.0 PCB and not with a Wooting 60HE PCB, which it also clearly states on the landing page. I've already admitted to being dumb earlier on, so let's just move past this. As I couldn't use the case, I went ahead and bought a random coffee-colored aluminum case. A wholesales GH60 anodizing aluminum CNC case for 60% mechanical gaming keyboard compatible GK61X, GK64X, Poke 3R. Why can't computer peripherals have normal names for once? Like, seriously. While it looks neat in terms of color, feels really nice, has a lot of heft to it, I'm not a big fan of the exposed PCB and the floating appearance of the keys. I think I'm just too used to the form factor of the Keychron K6, which I had been using up until this point. Financially savvy as I am, I went and bought yet another case. That was once I got the notification that the Tofu 60 Redux was available, which is compatible. Naturally, I ordered that immediately. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the Tofu 60 2.0 case or with the coffee-colored one I'm using right now, for that matter, but maybe I can use them for other project at some point in the future. Until the Tofu 60 Redux shows up, which won't be until November if I remember correctly, I'm stuck with the current case, which is fine, but it still leaves a sort of work in progress kind of impression whenever I look at my desk, which I'm not exactly thrilled about, but it is what it is for the time being. And in case you're wondering, the keyboard cost me 169 euros, as I got the one without keycaps. The blank black PBT keycaps cost me 45 euros. And then in cases, compatible and otherwise, I spent 351 euros and 34 cents, all types of shipping included, which brings me to a total of 565 euros and 34 cents. I hope my wife never gets to see this video. If you've watched this far, I think I'm not going to surprise you by telling you that I'm very happy with this keyboard. The only things missing right now are the Tofu 60 Redux case that I'm waiting on, doing another sound test, and that's it. Other than that, I have literally no gripes with either the hard or software. I've tried the keyboard in Street Fighter 6 and it works really well if you're a keyboard enthusiast for fighting games. I've also tried it in Resident Evil 4 Remake and it also works perfectly fine there too. I'm not exactly a keyboard gamer per se, as I primarily bought this keyboard for typing and the functionality it offers through both the LED color mapping and the customization of layers and profiles. If you are someone who plays games like Osu, I'm not telling you anything new here anyway, but I think the switches are awesome. So once again, and as always, let me put the question over to you. Have you used the Wooting 60HE yourself? Did you buy one? What are your thoughts on it? And if you didn't buy one, which keyword are you currently using? Let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching my video on my experiences with the Wooting 60HE all the way to the end. Don't forget to leave a like, maybe subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.